Servus Männer, it's White Pill Germany for the very first time because I have promised you a black and a white pill look on the current state of the opposition in Germany. And of course, I got the Black Pill Germany perspective out of the way a couple of weeks ago, I think. And now it's time for the White Pill assessment from a more optimistic, positive minded position for Germany, for the German people, and for Europe. In today's talk, I want to present recent polling numbers in the first part, and then in the second part, if these numbers by themselves are not white pilling enough for you, I want to assume really the white pill Germany position and talk about the potential for positive change for our country. And of course, different people see things differently, evaluate things a little differently, but this is why I choose really one video with a black pill perspective with all these negative arguments and these negative comments, and then this one here where I explicitly try to give a positive outlook. And we never know what the future will bring, but this is why I give you these two extreme scenarios. But before we begin, I want to express my honest gratitude to my supporters and my subscribers. You stayed loyal, or many of you stayed loyal with this channel over all these years. Thank you so much. You make these presentations possible in the first place. If you want to help my channel out, like, comment and subscribe, but also share this material with people that you think might have an interest in these presentations. If you want to make a contribution financially, you can do so via Patreon or Subscribestar. Thank you so much. Alright, so from my recent videos you might have picked up that the AfD is doing really well in the polling right now, and also there are two positions now of executive power on the local level that they could win. That is one Landrat, so one district administrator, and one mayor of a town. So this is the very first time that they have real executive power, even though it's just on the local level. But nevertheless, this is where it always starts. Now, to give you a general picture of what's going on in Germany right now, I would say that the established parties and the media, the elites in the education sector, for example, also, they're all in panic mode because the AfD is at a continued all-time high in the polling right now, and we have a couple of state elections coming up next year in central Germany, but also in West Germany, in the states of Bavaria and Hesse. They're coming up really soon, both in 3 months already. I will talk more about that in the second part, but to sum it up really quick, I would say the AfD has grown so popular that people now have second thoughts about demonizing them in a clownish, unhinged and extreme way like they have done thus far. I mean, some of them are still doing it, but you can already see that some people think, oh, wait a second, this is 20% of voters federally. In some central German states, it's a third. It's like 33, 32 or something percent of the voting population. Can we still demonize them in this extreme way? But more about this later. Let's go through the numbers now in the first part. So you see on the federal level, the AfD has also risen in popularity, and they are at a solid 20% now across basically all polling institutes. They are at a firm second place after the center-right conservatives from the CDU-CSU, but they're clearly ahead now of the Social Democrats, the SPD. That was always either number 1 or number 2. Those were the two big parties, the SPD and the CDU-CSU. Pretty much like Labour and the Tories in the UK, or Democrats and Republicans. That really doesn't hold up that well, but it's a center-right Christian conservative party and a classical social democratic Labour party. So the AfD is the only real opposition party in Germany, and of course nobody wants to form a coalition, or so they say at the moment, with the AfD party. So the win condition for the opposition is to make a coalition between the established parties harder and harder. There are parties that don't really get along with each other, like the Liberal Party FDP and the Green Party, but also the former Socialist Unity Party Die Linke. They were the ones who ruled the GDR for many decades, including building the wall and barbed wire fences and all that nice stuff. The Stasi party, basically, they don't get along so well with the CDU. So forcing the establishment to go into these unpopular, painful coalitions, that is really the goal for the time being. And we see on the federal level that the current ruling coalition that is already very uncomfortable because it includes the Green Party and the Liberal Party, they are already, even though they are a three-party coalition, they don't have a simple majority anymore in the polls. And even if you go to the so-called Große Koalition with the former two big parties, SPD and CDU-CSU, you only have like 52%. That is not too far away from below 50, so that is already not a safe ticket for the next election. The only other coalition that makes it above the 50% mark is the so-called Jamaica coalition because of the colors, the CDU-CSU in black, then the Greens, and then the Liberal Party in yellow. But the CDU, under their leader Merz, they have now announced that the Green Party is their formal enemy or opponent number one programmatically. And yeah, that already shows that the CDU under Merz, it will be very hard to go into a coalition with the Green Party now when they said that they're opposing all their, this is lip service, bear in mind, just lip service, but they said that they're opposing the current coalition or Green Party legislation with respect to heating the home, insulating the home, and also shutting down nuclear power. They kind of want to signal to the people that they're against all that, even though they're of course not. But it will be difficult for that reason. And that is kind of a win condition for the AfD. But we can see that much more clearly in central Germany. Let's go to the state of Thuringia, Thüringen, for example. Here you see the AfD is by far the strongest party, but also the former SED, the Party Die Linke, this communist party, they're very strong there. I talked a lot about Thüringen and the way that the current governor came into power illegitimately, in my opinion. They should have had elections a long time ago, but he just never really followed through on his promise, Mr. Ramelow, the current governor that is. But look at the numbers now. The only coalition that is really possible without the AfD includes the Communist Party and the center cucks. I really want to see, I think you need boatloads of popcorn if that would actually come to pass, if the election result next year would look like the polls are saying right now. That would mean the AfD will rule, or the CDU needs to go into a coalition with the Communist Party. And that is absolutely insane. That would maybe be better than the AfD ruling, because it would damage the establishment federally so much that after that, I think the AfD would just win everywhere. Or they would get a considerable boost, I think, because it really exposes the one-party system that we effectively have in Germany. All right, next up, Saxony. Here we see almost the same picture, just the difference is that the coalition from the CDU and the Green Party and the SPD, which is a really weird coalition, that is still roughly over 50%. They could lose more, but other than that, all the possible, mathematically possible coalitions are including the AfD. So here you see it once again. The stronger the AfD becomes, the more political gymnastics is required, and the more the establishment has to expose itself and to damage itself politically in order to keep the AfD away from power. And in Brandenburg, it doesn't look much differently. Almost the same picture here. It's either SPD, CDU and the Green Party, or those two parties and Die Linke, and both of them are very damaging for all these parties. Okay, that was Central Germany. Let's look to Western Germany now. In 3 months there are elections in Bavaria and Hesse, and in Bavaria bear in mind that there is a third conservative party that is doing well in the polls, and that is the Free Voters, die Freien Wähler. And they also have around 10%, and that explains why the AfD isn't that strong, because these people would either vote CDU or AfD if that party didn't exist in Bavaria also. They are currently in a coalition with the CSU, that is the sister party of Angela Merkel's CDU here in Bavaria, and they will probably continue. That is not big news, but the AfD also gained in Bavaria recently. I am supporting the AfD in Bavaria, but the Freien Wähler, they're not that bad. They're kind of in the middle between the CDU and the AfD. They're better than almost everything else except for the AfD that we have in Germany. So it's an okay party. I'm okay with that actually. Let's look at Hesse. Here there is a CDU Green Party coalition at the moment, and they might lose their majority. They're, according to the polls, around 50%, and that would mean that the Green Party could be kicked out of government in Hesse, and it would be an SPD-CDU coalition probably instead, or they would have to take in the Liberal Party. But you see already here that 4 out of 7 mathematically possible coalitions in Hesse include the AfD. So that means with a whopping 17% in a Western German state, that is including Frankfurt am Main, by the way, the AfD became strong enough to make it difficult for the establishment to keep them out of power. Alright, so this is as far as the numbers go, and I hope you see that in all these states, in all those polls, the AfD was gaining significantly over the last month. So what is the big white pill here? Well, it is that the only real opposition party in Germany will sooner or later gain executive power more and more, like it started already, and it will start really in central Germany and move also to Western Germany then. But not only that, there will be coalitions between, I think in the beginning, the Liberal Party and the CDU in central German federal states. Because if you have a stalemate in a newly elected parliament and you cannot form a stable coalition, at some point they will have to go to the negotiating table and they will have to form a coalition. The only other option is voting again, but if the outcome stays the same, what's the purpose of that? And these politicians, they want to rule, and they want these jobs and these posts in the public administration and in government. They want to have the nice office with the driver and with the 10 people of office staff and all that stuff. They want that. And if the only way that they can get that is to form a coalition with the AfD, guess what they will do? It started with the party Die Linke in the 90s, by the way, in the very same way. They said, oh, in the East it's different and that's okay. We wouldn't do that in the West, but in the East it's fine. They're different there, so okay. And it will be the same with the AfD. You will see. That's at least what my white pill self is telling you guys. And then I already hinted at that, but I see signs right now that it is getting really uncomfortable for some people in the media and people who have a lot of followers to demonize the AfD in such a clownish, unhinged way like they used to, like always using the N-word and saying that everyone who votes for them should be excluded from society and we should, very drastic descriptions of what to do with these people. If a right-winger said anything like that, they would probably end up in jail. But so far it was okay to do that with voters or members of the AfD. But this will change because now for the very first time, where we have 30% in central Germany or 20% or 15% in Western Germany, people are starting to realize that, wait a second, on my office floor where I work, in my department, there are like 1 out of 5 people voting for the AfD. Maybe if you think it's a different class or a different socio-economic subset of Germans, yeah, make it 1 out of 10. But still, now or back then, when it was still 5% that voted for the AfD, they thought, oh, well, I know nobody probably who votes for the AfD, and it's like these other people that you could demonize. But now that it gets more and more, people are starting to think, wait a second, people I work with, maybe even my own family members, maybe mathematically, some of them need to be voting for the AfD. And that makes them panic in the first place, of course, and then it makes them double think or second guess their public statements, if you know what I mean. And this is also a phenomenon that will pave the way for coalitions to be formed first in central Germany between the AfD and, for example, the Liberal Party and the CDU. So this is my short or midterm outlook, but what happens in the long term? Well, of course, if the AfD gains power in several federal states, at some point, laws will be changed, of course. They will have influence in the Bundesrat, that is the second chamber that needs to also pass federal laws. And that means that the laws that are made have to be written with the AfD approval in mind. So you cannot write laws that will not pass the Bundesrat then, because the AfD can block them there. And then as a next step, the AfD could be necessary to form a stable coalition on the federal level, and then you can change basically all the laws, and we can fundamentally change our immigration policy, and also we can restructure the welfare state in order to correct very, very undesirable circumstances there, let's say. And then at some point we could have policies like in Hungary or even in Denmark, if I dare dream, All right, so this is of course all assuming, and once again, from a white pill perspective strictly, all assuming that the AfD is not some big controlled opposition secret service operation in order to make people busy with themselves and as a big pressure valve or a big con game. And I think I'm leaving the white pill perspective for a second now. I honestly think that parts of the AfD are like that, obviously, but parts of them aren't. And if we saw something in the last years, then that the elements that I think are true German patriots, they pretty much won over the fake grifters or the controlled opposition elements like Petri and Meuthen. And that really gives me some mild hope here. All right, there would be many, many more things that I could talk about, but for today, that should be it. Let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. And of course, I know how this went down in Austria. I was also very optimistic in the beginning, and then this very popular coalition between the Austrian People's Party, ÖVP, and the Freiheitliche Partei, so the FPÖ, that is in a way comparable to the AfD, even though their history is much longer. That was taken down pretty much by a controlled secret service operation, you might almost say. And maybe because we know about this, we have this prior experience and this warning tale from Austria, maybe we can prevent such a timeline in Germany. Let me know if you think that this is just wishful thinking or if it's really realistic in the end, so that in this particular case, the white pill would be somewhat realistic. I'm looking forward to your comments down below. Have a great day. Servus, Kameraden.